Hi folks, today is the 4th of December, almost 2 months since the terrorist attacks in Israel, and we're still exposing anti-semites, we're still exposing those who live amongst us, who supported Hamas, who celebrated Hamas, and who continue to celebrate and support and promote Hamas. Today we're going to talk about an Egyptian academic who was granted asylum, highly likely was granted asylum by the Egyptian government in 2013 or perhaps early 2014. So he relocated to Germany in November 2013. He was on a scholarship by the Egyptian government actually, studying for his PhD, and his PhD was obtained with Princeton University and Berlin's Free University. Now his name is Taqadum Al-Khatib. And Taqadum Al-Khatib is now an academic. He is now a prominent academic who is celebrated by several pro-democracy and liberal organizations as an Egyptian living in exile for being basically an activist and for opposing President Sisi in Egypt. We're going to show you exactly how this is used as a smokescreen and what he's basically up to in Germany and here in the UK. So Taqadum Al-Khatib, as you can see, he is, like I said, celebrated by a few platforms as the Egyptian academic who lives in Berlin. He's been living in exile for a few years. He's pro-democracy, blah blah blah, the usual smokescreen for a lot of anti-Semites and a lot of racists and terrorism supporters. This is Taqadum Al-Khatib's profile according to Durham University, where he teaches. And also according to his Twitter account, where he is essentially a member of the staff there. I believe assistant professor, I can't really remember now. I believe either assistant professor or just a professor basically, or a lecturer. Now this is the first tweet. If we go back to 2012, before he relocated to Germany, you will see this tweet says, "Unleash the chains, let us fight all Jews." So he's very clearly making anti-Semitic tweets. He's very clearly, again, the very typical mindset and also the very typical anti-Semite that he would come across in the Muslim world. Another tweet, as we can see here, which shows how dangerous he can be, as somebody who's ironically did his PhD on Egypt's Jewry, rather than realize that Egypt's Jewish community, which is essentially wiped out now, rather than realize that this community was persecuted, that this community suffered, and similar to how many other Jewish communities around the world did suffer and were wiped out. Instead, he uses his academic credentials, he uses his years of academic studies to undermine Jews, to promote lies against Jews, to promote anti-Semitism, to suggest that Jews are liars. So this tweet says, and I'll sum it up for you basically. He says, "Through my work on the Jews of Egypt and the topic of Zionism," and then he mentions how he visited 19 archives, he visited, libraries, blah blah blah, and different places for his studies, including one in Germany, and he talks about the history of Zionism. And then he ends with a very dangerous comment. He says, "In brief, Zionists, if you give them your fingers, they will take a hand. If you give them a hand, they will take your arm. If you give them your arm, they will take your shoulder." And he goes on to basically say, eventually they will swallow you whole. And then we move to another tweet where he is saying, "Zionists are liars. They use anti-Semitism to frighten people off, especially here in Germany." And then he mentions an example who says, he says that there was this Jewish artist, Jewish singer called Jill Freien. He claimed that one of the staff at a hotel in Leipzig insulted him and made an offensive or anti-Semitic comment related to a necklace that this artist had with the Star of David in it. This member of the staff was sacked. However, CCTV proved that the artist actually lied, and he was then the target of a lawsuit, defamation lawsuit. Another tweet he says, and he makes it very clear that he says that he is in disagreement politically and ideologically with Hamas, but it remains a resistance movement against an occupier. And then he concludes with the hashtag, Hamas is a resistance movement. Another tweet, which is actually quite a dangerous one, he's claiming basically that a reporter for German television, ZDF, from Ramallah said, and he quotes this, "I have spoken to a lot of people in Ramallah. I never met one person who criticized Hamas. They all hold Israel responsible. It is not as we see it that Hamas uses civilians." So now he's reporting on what this reporter said. But then he adds his comment and says, this is the admission, or an admission from one of the largest supporters of Israel, presumably he means Germany, that the Palestinian people are supporting their resistance. So he's making it very clear that he believes that Hamas is a resistance. He believes that basically that this report, which should actually prove otherwise, should prove the exact opposite. The fact that people in Ramallah do not criticize Hamas is actually quite a dangerous indication that they all support Hamas, and unlike what we're being told, that civilians, that Hamas is not all Palestinians, blah blah blah. But he uses this to say, look, the Palestinian people are basically united around and behind their resistance. Another tweet says, which is even more dangerous, he says that the German police arrested a woman who called for a protest in Frankfurt, and this woman stated in a TV interview that Hamas did not kill children, and that this is false propaganda, and that Hamas is a resistance movement, not a terror group. And then he adds a comment, the woman was arrested immediately. This is a return to Nazism in its most brazen form. So he believes that arresting people who say Hamas is a resistance movement is Germany returning to Nazism. And he lives in Germany again, as we said, and he teaches in Germany apparently, and the UK. And then we go to another tweet where he is saying that there was a plan to compare the events of the 7th of October to 9/11, to basically create the impression that Hamas is ISIS and Hamas is a terror group, and therefore justify the right to self-defense. He then actually he then puts something which is really quite dangerous. He puts it out there, and he suggests that the fact that Bin Laden's letter, where he was basically saying the US attacking Palestinians is one of the reasons why Al-Qaeda carried out the 9 attacks, he says the fact that Bin Laden's letter went viral and has been reread in the current context serves the letter. And basically it refutes the argument that Hamas is a terrorist group, and he says that basically he says that the arrow bounced on the person who's shooting the arrow. So essentially he's suggesting that there was a plan, there was some grand scheme to say that Hamas is a terrorist group and compare it to 9/11, and that this has basically rebounded, and now Bin Laden and Hamas are both basically seen for what he believes they are, resistance movements rather than terror groups. And then he goes to another, we actually go to another one of his retweets, where he is retweeting somebody saying, I will never forget how there was more of an international outrage about 40 fake babies than over 7,000 real ones. So clearly he believes that the babies being murdered by Hamas are all fake. This is all propaganda. Again, it's very consistent with his argument in the previous tweet, where he said that there was a plan to compare Hamas with 9/11 and Al-Qaeda, blah blah blah. So it's all a grand Zionist scheme based on false propaganda. Now this tweet, he celebrates Hamas. He says Hamas has won. The fact that Israel accepted the humanitarian ceasefire and exchanged captives through negotiations with Hamas is basically an implicit admission that Hamas has won, blah blah blah, and then he goes on and basically suggests that Israel has failed militarily, but Hamas has won. And this is his YouTube channel. So what's really dangerous about this man is not just the fact that he actually was given the opportunity, and I believe public funds or access to public funds by academic institutions, German academic institutions, and potentially American institutions. He was given the funds. He was allowed to study Egyptian Jewry, to then say to us, listen folks, I've got years of experience, I've got academic credentials, and I can tell you that Jews are liars. I can tell you that the babies who were murdered are just fake babies, and I can tell you that Hamas is a resistance movement, not a terror group. And that's why we're exposing him today, because he's really dangerous, because he's been given asylum by Germany, given access to educational institutions, given academic credentials, and now he's based in Germany promoting anti-Semitism and promoting terrorism and promoting support for terrorist organizations using his YouTube channel. Now there is something for you to do here. I will mention the institutions that he's affiliated with. I will mention a link to his Twitter account, and also basically I'm just hoping that you'll be able to write letters, you'll be able to write emails to these academic institutions to show them that this man is an anti-Semite, very clearly, and that this man is supporting Hamas, which is actually an offense. It is a criminal offense in the UK and in Germany. So hopefully we'll have him arrested, hopefully we'll have him deported, and I'm hoping we'll have some good news on this soon, because we've got very clear evidence. He's very outspoken. He's got his YouTube channel, he's got his Twitter. He doesn't hide his support for Hamas, which is also mind-blowing. He's very open about it, and he's very public about this. So I believe we should get some results soon, with your help, obviously. So I'll leave all the links, and hopefully we'll have some good news soon. Thanks very much, and see you next time. Bye.